We're good.
Okay, do we have anybody online? Yeah, go ahead. We're gonna start with the public hearing for the 2025-26 district-wide safety plan.
Good evening. Tonight we'll do a review of our district-wide safety plan that has been up on our website. It's a 30-day comment period. To date, we have not had any public comments submitted around the district-wide safety plan. I would add that this is a year that there are not substantial updates. So I will say the plan that we have going into this year is very similar. I'll speak a little bit about some of the changes that you'll see. A couple of wording changes, nothing of significance, but we'll go ahead and go through that. And then should people join online, we will accept both in-person and online comments. So we have two safety plans in district. We have a district-wide safety plan and a building-wide safety plan. Our district-wide safety plan is our public-facing document that is related to the safety and security of the district. And this plan is pretty general in nature. And that is very intentional. We do not put specific details just for the security nature of the building and in the event that there was an emergency. The district-wide safety plan is updated each year through Needham Risk Management Company. That is our company that does our health and wellness planning and our safety planning alongside the district. This is posted annually and put up for review each summer for the 30-day comment period. Once it goes through the 30-day comment period, we hold our public hearing, which is this evening, and then the board will adopt our district-wide safety plan, which will then move from draft to its regular form and will be posted on the website. The second plan that we do have in-house is our building-wide safety plan, and this is a secure document related to specific plans and procedures that we have in the event of an emergency. This plan is in the hands of very few people, district administrators, law enforcement, fire response, things of that nature, but this plan has the details of what we do in specific emergencies and the steps and the protocols that we take. The key components of the district-wide safety plan, it identifies our safety team members. This group is advised by Needham Risk Management. They meet annually to review the plan, go over questions. And again, not everybody on the committee has a physical copy of the plan. For example, we have our PE teachers are there. It is important that we have feedback from them on the district-wide or on the building safety plan. However, that plan, they don't necessarily need a copy of it in order to implement it because their responsibilities are very similar to what teachers and faculty have in general. But that team meets annually, they review the plan, they provide feedback, and that plan then goes into place for the remainder of the year. Any recommendations that anybody on that team may make is also run through Needham Risk Management because sometimes they do things for very specific reasons, so we treat them as the experts in the room when we're going through those plans. The second piece of our district-wide plan is risk and prevention measures. So we have things in place through our school counselors. We try to do early detection around violent behaviors. That runs through our counseling office with our social worker, our school's counselor, and our administrative team is involved in that. We have certain protocols and certain assessments that we do if and when students exhibit certain behaviors. We have DASA protocols in place. That's our Dignity for All Students Act. We have coordinators within the building that work with students, identify potential bullying issues, and work to remedy those throughout the building. We have a mentoring system with different counselors and administrators through the building, and then we do a variety of training. So we have risk and prevention measures in place. In addition, we added the presence of a school resource officer or a community resource officer, and we call it here. So that person is in place as well, and that person engages with our students, right, to build relationship from a police department level, but he's also here for building safety. And he's part of lessons with students around lead, which again is about personal wellness and safety and those sorts of things. The second piece of our plan is the training, drills, and notification. So all of our teachers go through a training where we review our drills with them each year, and then we do drills, right, where we do a minimum of 8 fire drills a year, and then we do 4 lockdown drills a year. And then you can practice some of the other drills along the way, but those are the ones that we are required to do. We're also required to do a fire drill over the summer when we have summer programs here, and we conduct those as well. The big change for last year was around notification. We are required to notify parents of our drills a week in advance. So when we do lockdown drills, there's usually there's a parent square notification that goes out to let parents know that we are going to conduct a lockdown drill, that we do them in a way that's trauma informed. They are never unannounced. We announce them, we give teachers a heads up, we give students a heads up. And it's this idea, right, that we want to minimize trauma. We have to practice these drills. We want to do them in a way that prepares our students and our faculty and doesn't create stress of the unknown. Because when we do unannounced drills, we're not announced fire drills, we do them so often, right? We do them announced at the beginning there, and then we move to unannounced, but we do them so often and the kids are used to them. It's very different than when we do a lockdown drill. And there's a lot of social media and a lot of media presence around lockdown drills, so that can be difficult. So Mrs. Wiley gets on the announcements, she makes an announcement, she talks about it. We give teachers a couple of minutes to talk to the kids, and then we conduct those drills. So we will continue with the notification around those drills as we move into this school year. Our plan also outlines roles and responsibilities, again, in a very general nature. You have our faculty and staff, supervision of students in bathrooms and clearing of hallways and things of that nature. When we have a drill or in an emergency situation, we have roles for administrators. I am the point of contact or the chief emergency officer in the building. If I'm not here, Kathleen assumes that responsibility with Joanne and Audrey as in assisting in those roles. So all of those different measures are outlined. We talk about what does our safety and security personnel, like our community resource officer, do, and then it goes through and delineates just very general kind of what each person's role as we move through these drills and in the event of an emergency. The next piece of the plan outlines emergency response plans in a very general nature. We have 5 different emergency plans that we can practice or will practice over the course of the year. The first one is a shelter in place. That is a weather event related drill. So if we get a new awakened blast, we have in our reports for all the teacher notes that I was taking by the doors. We have a map, we have a weather map of the building. Where can they go in the event of a weather event that is away from blast? They're coded green and red. So the teachers can move to a place if we had to do a shelter in place to not be around blast. It's a lot of times related to wind, thunderstorms, things of that nature. We also have a hold in place. A hold in place is often used for if I had an EMS on site, for instance. We will ask students to remain in their classrooms and not have any passing of it in the hallways. So a hold in place is usually that type of thing. Or if I had, let's say, a student be incredibly dysregulated in the hallway. We have students with exceptional groups within our building, and when our littlest people are sometimes going through a moment, right, the hardest time that they have going, we don't necessarily need an audience for them. So we want to preserve a child's dignity. So in those places, we use a hold in place. Evacuation or your traditional fire drills. And then we have a lockdown, and it used to be called a lockout, but now we call it a secure lockout. They call it a secure lockout to try to differentiate in the event of an emergency, the difference between a lockdown and a lockout. So a lockout is in the event that there's danger or perceived danger, possible danger outside of the building. So we went into lockout one time because somebody escaped the water lead courthouse. And we don't know that they're coming to our school, but if they're heading down Broadway in this direction, we've had high-speed chases go up and down, 787. Not clear Manans, not related to Manans, but sometimes we'll get notification to go into a lockout situation. I would also call a lockout if I had a really upset parent coming to the building, right? I would secure the building, and then we would work through whatever we had going through with the parent, but you try to control the environment as much as possible. So those are the situations of a secure lockout, and then the highest level threat, of course, is a lockdown. And that is when there is a threat within the building or outside of the building. And that is when kids shelter in place. We lock doors and we get the building locked down as much as we can, really until law enforcement can get here. That's the goal. You want to create an environment where students can be safe until law enforcement comes in and practice those drills. As you can imagine, in the event of a lockdown, especially those drills, we want to treat them in a way that minimizes student and family stress. So we do the notification, the announcements. Our teachers are very good about working through kids. Our littlest learners, right? They'll read a book to them. They'll do things like that while we go through our drills. And then the next piece that is outlined is communication. And I will say, and I will repeat, and I would ask you to encourage any of your residents or classmates to sign up for Parent Square. In the event of emergency, all notifications are going to go out to Parent Square. That is the most succinct, clear, and easiest way for us to reach families in a matter of minutes. So we will use Parent Square as our primary mode of communication through drills and in the event of an actual emergency. And you'll talk a little bit about those communications, and those communications will often come directly out of my office. And then the last piece is we outline recovery. In the event that there was an emergency, we have to look at reunification. We look at those plans where we reunite families with their children. In the event that something happens here, it's usually off-site. You know, if we can be here, that's fine, but a lot of times in a serious situation, we do reunification off-site. And then the recovery process here, in the event of drills, for instance, we go over drills each time. Not that, I would say not the fire drills as much, once we get later into the year, we're on like fire drill 5, 6, 7, 8. But every time we do a lockout down drill, at the end of that meeting, we sit down with our administrative staff because they support us through that process as well. The administrators and our community officer, and we talk about what went wrong, or the potential areas. Has something broken, something become broken in the meantime. Whether it's maybe a cafeteria door, a door is a lobby door, a key didn't work, or, we want to be able to get ahead of those things. Maybe somebody couldn't hear an announcement, in a particular room or particular area of the building. That's why we do those drills, so we can get ahead of it and work through those areas. The last piece that I'll say, and we will talk a little bit more about tonight, is around risk and prevention. Last year we had talked about the recommendation of silent panic buttons being put within the building. We didn't do a silent panic button, but what we did is we did install panic buttons at both of our main entrances. And the purpose of those buttons are, when one of our secretaries are out front, is to simply be able to push the button, it notifies 911, it shuts down our doors, and it puts an announcement on the PA system. So it triggers 3 things to happen very quickly, which is what you want to happen in the event of an emergency. We talked a lot about silent versus not silent. When it's silent for everyone, right? So we use the PA system. That is what we use in order to make announcements within the building, and this helps trigger that as well. So those are really our key components of our safety plan. We go to the next slide. I will open it up for public comment questions. Do we have anybody online so far? You. Okay. Anything from the Board of Education?
The panic button is available to everybody, even the students.
So it has a cover on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
get. Right?
Yeah.
But it's accessible to adults. And the hope is for the cover, if you have a little person in the office who went for it, the cover will give you enough time to not happen. And if it did, the reality is that we would disarm it and we would have a conversation. I would say though, once that button is hit, at least you have to respond. And they will respond. Just because, if it was a bad guy, right? Like when they tell you to cancel it, they're gonna come. It's like when you call 911 from your house, right? Whether you mean it or not, they're still gonna come and check on you. It's the same idea in schools. But we try to take it easily accessible to adults and give us just 2 minutes to get ahead of the kids. If somebody is very curious about the panic button.
Real quick, when you talk about the potential for silent alarms, would that be something to where like each teacher would have one, it would be under a desk and they'd be able to trip it that way? Or would it be similar to the lockout button where it would be some type of button within the classroom that would also need to have a cover on it?
So the silent alarm would be in the main office, kind of like what we have.
Okay.
For our teachers in the event of the emergency, we talk about the drill, they're encouraged to call an emergency in any way, shape, or form if they need to. On our phones, we have codes that they can type in and trigger our response system, whether it's a fire evacuation, a lockdown, a secure lockout, and we have codes available for them. So they can, wherever there's a phone, which is a phone in every room in the building, any room can call and put us into one of these procedures. And it's the idea, right, that like if you see something, it's better to go into, a lockout and those kinds of things, and then we figure out the details after. That's the thought process behind it. So that any teacher in the building can do it, but it would activate the alarm system, the PA system.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay, thank you.
No, I had to shut it down. Bring it back. Then it worked.
Okay, so we can move into our regular meeting. Could I get a motion to enter public session?
I will make a motion to enter public session.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in public session. Could I get roll call, please?
Mrs. Jessica.
Here.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Yeah.
We rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Comments from the public on agenda items. Just a reminder for those members of the public in attendance, this is one of two opportunities afforded to members of the public to comment on or inquire about agenda items. Members of the public will also have an opportunity at the end of the evening's agenda to comment on matters not formally noted on the agenda. Anyone listening can submit comments via the live stream or email comments to boecomments@manans.org. There's still nobody online? Public? No. All right, item F, approval of the minutes. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District accept the minutes of the July 7th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item 3, discussion items. A, superintendent's reports and updates.
Okay. So it is hard to believe, but we are about 3 weeks away from welcoming back teachers and students. 2 weeks, I would say, still a little bit on the quiet end. Last week of August, all bets are off. I expect that we will have a lot of activity within the building when it comes to students and staff, which is really a welcome time after kind of the summer and the flipping of the building and the cleaning to have people back in and really, that's when the excitement starts for the beginning of the school year. So as we look ahead to this school year, I just want to talk a little bit about opening updates and priorities for this school year. As we know, we are going into the final year of our strategic plan, our 5-year strategic plan. And this year, as I have shared with staff, and we have talked about it as an administrative team, is really about taking all the pieces and parts and letting them come together and having people really give them the opportunity to take what we learned, do the work, take the work that we have done, and really put it into practice and just have a little bit of breathing room to do the implementation piece of it. Our teachers have done a lot. We have been really, really, really busy the last 4 years. And when we take a look back at all that we have been able to accomplish, it is really pretty impressive. And I think that goes to the importance of having a strategic plan, right? And ours is done in a way that we start with our board goals, which are pretty general in nature, but then we really start to drill down. We talk about what are we going to do year by year to accomplish and work towards the goals that the board has set for us. So as we go into this last year, a lot of what you're going to see is going to really be around taking the last 4 years, putting it into practice, monitoring, implementing, adjusting, and doing what we need to do to put what we're putting in front of kids work for kids, right? Because when we sat down and started writing this 4 years ago, a lot changes in 4 years. And I know that we are grateful to work for a board who understands that and allows us the freedom to make some adjustments along the way while remaining true to the work that we want to do, but also doing it in a way when people are giving us feedback, we're able to adjust our approach a little bit. And that's the danger sometimes of a very specific strategic plan. When we lay out very specific steps, knowing that we have the ability to adjust and make real-time adjustments, just like we would ask teachers to do in a classroom in front of kids, that really allows us to create plans that work for teachers, work for families, and then work for kids. So as we go into this next school year, when we look at our academic achievement, our K-5 teachers implemented a new ELA curriculum last year through American Reading Company, and our middle school was in year 2 of expeditionary learning. We will continue to support them through that process. It is pretty impressive the things that our kids are able to do in the area of reading and ELA. When we come back to our assessment presentation, you will see some of that playing out in the numbers. We've started to look at some of our preliminary assessment data, and our kids are making gains, and I would say are making pretty impressive gains. So we will continue to support our teachers through year 2 of our core, and that will be through opportunities to look at data. It will be through opportunities of coaching. So we will continue to support them and allow them to grow in those areas. We intentionally did not change any teacher grade levels this year. We had the potential for some shifts, and we did not make those shifts because they just learned this curriculum, right? Like, we want to give teachers an opportunity to go into year 2 feeling like they have some background knowledge. That is also paired with the fact that we're implementing the math curriculum this year. Teachers are pretty familiar with it. They went through some training at the end of the year. In addition, they did some piloting of units last year. So it's not completely brand new to them, but it's still a new curriculum, and they're going to have to work through those pieces and parts. So we will support them through that as well. And then one of the things that our teachers are incredibly grateful for are the level of professional development that we budget and put aside for them to be successful. So we will continue to give them the time, the space, and the expertise to implement both of these curriculums. We will continue with our data cycles and planning. We have looked at data from a pretty high level, like I would say overall achievement scores. We are going to start looking at deeper level and standards and where are our kids growing, where are they excelling, and then where do we maybe have some gaps in some standards. So we'll take a look at that and continue that work. We do data science formally 3 times a year, and then informally teachers work within the data themselves with our instructional coach. And then the last piece, we'll continue to work for our pacing guides and cross-curricular planning. So we have worked very hard to get our curriculum down on paper. And the reason for that is we need it down. We need to look at when are we doing certain topics, look at the timing, make adjustments. For instance, looking at science and social studies this year, some of our teachers made adjustments because they have some units in our core, the American Reading Company, and they want them to line up. And that's some of that cross-curricular planning. It is really helpful when the music teacher can go in and look at what 3rd grade is learning over the course of the year, and then find ways to connect the music curriculum to what's going on in 3rd grade without one person holding all the information, right? So we've been working really hard to get those documents spelled out. So we will continue with that work as well this year. In the area of social and emotional learning, we remain committed to responsible classroom practices. As you know, any new teacher that starts with us within 1 year of their start date goes through the full introductory course, which is 3 days of training in responsive classroom. Until they get through that training, we have the instructional coach and their mentors, and Mrs. White and myself, to help them through their first year as they implement. So we will continue our training in responsive classroom. We will look at some next level of training. As I shared with you, we just had 5 teachers go through the advanced course this summer. So we are well on our way to continuing that social emotional learning goal. The second piece is that we had committed to Fly 5 as our social emotional curriculum. We will continue to implement. We're going to implement a little bit more structured this year and a little bit more regularly. We give teachers, as we always do, a little bit of freedom, right? How they're going to implement, when they're going to implement. So what we're going to do this year is look at our implementation and really see what are the areas that we need to focus on. Where is maybe 2nd grade spending a lot of time, where is 3rd grade spending a lot of time, and make sure that we are going across the different competencies, and maybe not everybody's focusing on responsibility or everybody's focusing on cooperation. We want to make sure that we're spanning the different social emotional competencies as we look at that. So this year, we're really going to take a look at what are we doing, when are we doing it, and what's working. And that goes into the next one, which is the review and mapping of our social emotional learning at 6-8. And this is one of the areas that I was referring to previously about the ability to kind of flex and move as we need to. So Fly 5 has been great in kindergarten through 5th grade. It has not been very well received in middle school. It is perceived by our middle school students as a little bit babyish. There's some characters. Do the characters grow over time? Yes, like they start as kindergartners in the curriculum and they line up as middle schoolers. But it is still, cartoonish in nature and things like that. So we've made some adjustments there. We've introduced orientation class in 6th grade. We've brought back health in 8th grade. We're talking with Mrs. Bettinger about health in 7th grade and looking at where those competencies are covered to make sure that, they don't have to be in an SEL class. They can be integrated into different areas. We just need to make sure that we are integrating them. So we'll be working on that. And then we will go into year 2 of DESA, which is our social emotional screener. That is something that we send out to parents, and parents have the ability to opt out if they would like to. And then we will continue to monitor our MTSS, that is our multi-tiered systems of support. That is how we interview with kids who are struggling. Whether it's emotionally, academically, or behaviorally. So we will continue to review that data and we'll continue to work through those protocols. And then our last strategic plan goal is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will continue to support and implement restorative practices. We'll be going into year 3. Again, when we come to our data presentation, we will share data around our suspension and our discipline rates. And again, I think the board will be pleased with the reduction that they will see. We will continue to work on our commitments around grading for equity. We had a group of teachers go through the full training last year. We have a second cohort going through this year. We've been working with our teachers really around what are our commitments this year and how are we going to ensure that we are creating what students can do and know versus compliance and work. Those things are important, but I don't know that they should be part of science average. And the science average is supposed to represent what kids know and can do in science. Then we need to make sure that that's what the science average is, or the math average, or the PE average, right? So we will continue to look at those commitments, and I'm sure that one of our groups of teachers will want to come before the board and share the work that they've been doing, along with Mrs. Wiley, so I don't want to take too much of their thunder, but they really have been doing some incredible work in helping us move the mark around grading for equity and ensuring that we are grading what students know and can do. We have begun our partnership with Tangible Development. That partnership is really supposed to help inform our next round of strategic planning, and it will involve training of our DEI committee, but then also help us look ahead and see what our next steps are in that area. And then we continue to onboard our new teachers through our BOCES professional development service that they have, culturally responsive teaching. It's a one-day training that's really meant to kind of level up people who are new to the district. Because, you know, the reality is that you can't continually bring back the same consultant, right? And we only hire, you know, maybe three new people a year. So we have to find a way, and, you know, BOCES has begun to offer this professional development as a way to help bring people on without having to kind of start over each year with consultants and help level up people as they come on. And then last but not least, we are always working on things that sometimes come up outside of our strategic plan. So we will really lean into our artificial intelligence with our instructional staff this year. First half of the year, we're really going to look at teacher tools. And we're going to do that through something called Magic School AI. So Magic School AI is an artificial intelligence platform that teachers can utilize, and it can do anything from generating ideas to lesson planning to leveling text, like in social studies, to make the text more accessible to maybe a student with some reading needs. Really, the possibilities are pretty limitless, but Magic School AI is tailored specifically for school-age kids and then also teachers. So we're excited to bring that on. We had a group of teachers working with it earlier at the end of last year, and then we'll bring it on for our staff as a whole. Really what we were holding and waiting for was board policy, right? We didn't want to move ahead on anything until we had that in place. We now have that in place, knowing that that was coming through. We had planned for a launch in September with that as a whole. Ms. Gibson, our library media specialist, is doing some AI curriculum work. Like, what does that look like in front of kids? So she has put in some work this summer to do some planning around that. And where does AI fit into her curriculum? Around research, right? Ways to help students, not necessarily replace student work. So she's been working on some curriculum materials in that area. Our Riverside Collaborative has been a resounding success. So Mrs. Slowski will continue to work through the Riverside Collaborative and our partner districts. We have also brought on a part-time parent liaison who's really helping with parent engagement. That is thanks to Bullet Aid through Assemblyman Snack's office. And then we'll be looking ahead for strategic planning for 26 to 31, which will be our next 5-year cycle. So we'll be working on that over the course of this year. BOCES will be partnering to work with us on that, along with tangible developments and our teachers and our families, and you know, it'll be an overall pretty well-rounded undertaking. So that is all that I have for you for updates and comments to the new school year. Questions from the board, areas of follow-up, or anything that you'd like more information on?
I have some questions about the AI stuff. It definitely makes sense to me because it's in our world, right? It's gonna start coming into our schools, coming into our classrooms. It's new for us. Do we know yet? Like, where are we talking to kids? How are we talking to kids about how to use it? Is Ms. Gibson educating kids about, what are the pros and cons of actually using it, how to use it ethically, things like that? Or is she still kind of figuring out how that's gonna look? And also, are teachers going to be doing that also? Or is it mostly happening in library right now because she's our media specialist and maybe some of the other teachers are comfortable and maybe some of them aren't?
So we are not gonna start anything with kids right away.
Yeah.
So, the reality is that we have teachers who are very comfortable with AI and, all the way down to teachers who have not used AI at all, right? So our original thinking is to start with teachers, and after school AI will not be opened up to students initially. So we're going to undergo that training, have teachers get in and help them see the benefits. And then as we move ahead, I think Mrs. Gibson will be kind of our carved out place that we are going to do it. But some of the things that they recommend are rubrics around artificial intelligence. Like when you get an assignment, how much AI can you use, right? Like, is this a no AI, assignment all the way up to like full access? Like you can use it as much as you want. So helping to give kids kind of a barometer of the technology to figure out where they want to go. Our goal here is truly to have it become a tool within the classroom and try to set a tone where we're not trying to chase down and catch kids using AI. So our thinking is like kids are going to be using it. They are using it currently, right? Like there's no question about that, but we will not formally introduce it until probably the spring. And then we'll probably find very narrow spaces to start with Magic School AI. One of the things that, Tom or Mr. Schweitzer was talking about is, there's an opportunity where you can like interview historical figures, or he can, give different versions of historical documents in it, and it gives kids the ability to access. Because one of the things we're going to talk about teachers around the ethics, around how to use it, and then how to think about planning lessons for students in a way that's different. If you're going to give them a historical document and say summarize it, AI can do that for them. That's like, so they have to kind of reframe how they're thinking about some of their assignments so that AI can become a tool, but not do the work for them. So that's going to be, I think, the majority of our work this year, and then we'll start to dip our toe into it a little bit. But we also do need to, as a faculty, have agreements, right? Like, what are our agreements around AI? They need a unified message. If there's not a unified message, I promise you they will find all the cracks. So we just need to give our staff the time to learn, grow, figure out kind of what our baseline is, and then communicate that together as a group. But I do think that Mrs. Gibson will be the formal teaching place of the building, because everything's going to stay. And the flavor is not going to change based on the presentation or the teacher's comfort, right? When you have one spot that's really delivering a unified message, then it becomes easier to support that message, and it doesn't shift it based on people's perspectives or, those kind of things.
Okay, yeah, once we introduce it to students, it's gonna be important that they know, like you said, where can they use it, where they can't, and to know it's not infallible, and to have just information about how does that work, and you still need to check it, and you can't trust it all the time, which I think right now they probably just assume it's 100% true.
Yeah, it's all that.
And I can read the Google summary and I know all the things.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, once we do start introducing in the classroom, it might be helpful to just start letting families know so that the parents don't see their kids using it, think they're teaching. And just to help them understand too, some of the limitations and things like that.
Absolutely. And I will say, I don't know, some families may have some real questions about it. You know what I mean? So there will be a whole family and, community component that will work as well. Absolutely.
Anyone else?
Good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The second item on here is the reserve plan.
Yep. Fund balance, not reserve plan.
Oh. Sorry, the PowerPoint description says reserve plan. in the file, but
Right, sorry about that.
yeah, that's okay.
It's fund balance update. Reserve plan we will go through later in the fall, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But I want to talk about fund balance, where we stand as of June 30th, 2025, with the recommendations that when we talked in June about the amounts we can transfer to the appropriate reserve. So we're going to go ahead and have a conversation. For the newer members on the board, and I know Charlie, you've been here, Courtney, Longo, but Jason, you haven't, and Sergeant Patrick's not here, but fund balance really, when it comes all down to it, is you take your revenues, you subtract your expenditures, that's the fund balance. The guidelines come on what do we do with it, and what are we allowed to do with it as we go through. It's quite that simple. And just to give you a quick overview, we have several reserves. We have a workers' comp reserve, an unemployment reserve, an employee benefit liability reserve, which you might hear people say EBLAR. We have an employee retirement reserve, and we have a teacher's retirement reserve. And this gives you just a brief overview of what they are. The top few are very, very small. They're maybe 30,000, 40,000, under 100 generally. That's what they are. We'll go into those in much more detail when we do the reserve plan. Our school district does a reserve plan every single fall. We review it, you approve it, and it's on our website. It's not a requirement, but we do it. The employee ERS reserve and the teacher's retirement reserves, they are reserves that help us offset the expenses that are associated with the employer costs of those two reserves, ERS expense and then TRS expense. ERS is a little nicer because there's no real structure around limits that you can put in. Now, could I triple our salaries and put millions of dollars in there? No, I don't have that many ERS staff here. But the TRS, we have a formula that we have to follow. We are limited by how much money we can put in that reserve. Go ahead. The other ones we have a tax tertiary reserve, a repair reserve, and a capital reserve. The tax tertiary reserve, we look at that every year with the auditor. I go through any assessment challenges that are on books, any new ones that we've gotten. We're a little unique in Manans. They have until August 15th, I think, to file their challenges. Those are homeowners as well as businesses. We got a couple more today, but none of them are new, and our reserve doesn't exceed what our liability is if all those people were to win their assessment challenge, which is highly unlikely. The repair reserve is a reserve that we have that we used before when we replaced the air conditioning unit on this roof, and I'm going to come to you next time we meet to ask you for some more money to do another air conditioner on the roof. But that's what the voters have to approve to fund that. But all we need to do is have a public hearing to spend it. And the capital reserve, that's the most restrictive, one of the most restrictive reserves. It's a tool that allows us to offset the cost of the taxpayer when we do a capital project. We have to have voter approval to establish it, to fund it, and to spend it. The board establishes it, but we also have to have voter approval to fund it. We put this up in my first year back at Nance in 2022, or the 23 school year that was. And that is good for 10 years. We give it an amount that we cannot exceed to put in, and I believe we approved it at $3 million. So even over the 10 years, I can't put more than $3 million in that reserve. Okay, that's just a brief overview. The board action that we took in June that we asked the board to approve, we did an employee retirement reserve, an increase not to exceed $50,000. We approved a teacher retirement reserve increase not to exceed $75,000, and a capital reserve increase not to exceed $750,000. And the reason we did that, and I did increase our limits a little bit, because last year, if you remember, our fund balance was a little too high. We had to make another action after June to increase it, which I had to do 2 corrective action plans for. So this year we were a little more conservative and increased those amounts so that I didn't have to come back to the board and I didn't have to write 2 corrective action plans. This is, in a nutshell, the fund balance as of June 30th. I always give the board, you'll get it in the fall, you'll get a review of this. It's 5 years. I always keep it 5 years. There's actually more years than that on it, but I only bring 5. But what I'd like to point out, as we look at the 6/30/25 figure, can we make that go? Oh, shoot. We started with 3,226,953, which is the total of all our money, all our fund balance, that's the total. And then we start with that figure, our revenues were $12.1 million. Our expenditures were 11.685. So now we have $3.7 million. You'll notice that's a significant jump from one year to the next. So that's why we allocate the money. And this top figure is the reserve for encumbrances. What that is that our school district every year as part of the audit, if we have bills that we have not received the good and or services for, that was an expense last year, we carry that money with us into the new school year. It actually increases what the voters approved. If the voters approved 12 million, I have $1 million in those carryover encumbrances. That figure is going to be here. It's only 168,000 this year. And then if you go down the list to the right, I'll come over here so I can read, you have the workers' compensation reserve, your reserve for unemployment. Now here's your reserve for ERS and TRS. We're going to talk about those in a minute. You have reserve for your tax surcharge, employee benefits, the capital reserve, the repair reserve, and then we're going to get into appropriated fund balance and unassigned fund balance. So the ERS reserve, we gave it a maximum of $50,000. I put $50,000 into that reserve. I took all of the money that the board approved and put it in that reserve. The reserve for TRS, we are at our limit with that initial extra deposit of $28,139. The rule for that reserve is that you cannot exceed 10% of the total instructional salaries in the previous year. So we came in, we sat down, we did a formula, we took the bill we had, and so that is our maximum that we can put in for this year. Might be able to increase a little bit next year, but right now we're maxed out. The reserve for tax surcharge, that's fine. It only went up by the interest this year. I don't need to adjust it, especially with the other two assessments we got. We're right at about just under 120,000. I don't anticipate all of them to come to fruition, so we're comfortable with that. Then you have your employee benefits. Next year we might put a little bit more money in that. I believe we have a retiree that's coming through the pipeline this year. We haven't formally gotten anything, but with our compensated absences, we can put more money in that reserve if we need to. Reserve for your repairs, we went through that already. Now appropriated for revenues. What that means is how much of our own money are we going to use to balance our budget? This year we used $900,000. And then the unassigned is what is left after everything that we made sure we put all our money away. What do we have left? We have $764,000 left in fund balance. Well, the state says we're not supposed to have more than 4%. We've been through that before, Jason. That may be a new conversation for you, but the state says you shouldn't exceed it. Every school district in New York State wants that to go to 6%. Legislature doesn't do it. We always ask, but what we do is we justify where we are. And at the bottom here during COVID, you can see this line here represents the percentage that we were over. And it was 9.88. We got 9.3, 7.1, 5.97, and right now it's 5.89. The capital reserve, that represents an increase of 476,000. I am recommending that we put 465,000 new dollars in it, and the other money on that increase is the interest that it has earned through the year. We have money in the reserves, we take the interest, we add it right into the reserves. So right now we're at 5.89. I can say to the state, hey, we're still making motion, we're going down towards 4, but I also know that this school district is in a unique position with our homeless shelter. Sometimes we have kids that come in here, we all know this, they come in with unique needs, they cost more money than we had planned for, so we're not necessarily comfortable leaving it at 4%. I like to tell the state that it's gone down because they're getting tougher and tougher, but at $465,000 into that, we were at 5.89, which is a slight decrease. Again, it's 1.89. The bottom here, it tells you, this is the new figure, 12.9 million that our voters just approved. 519 is 4%, 519,000. So we still are over a little bit, but that's where we stand as of right now. I'm happy to tell you our auditors were here. Was it last week? It was last week. They came in. Our books look good, which is nice. I'm happy about that. Not sure I'm happy I picked the end of July, but hey, we got through it and everything looks good. But that's where we need to be to show where we are as far as fund balance. Now, if you want to go ahead and give me the next screen,
It's on.
it's over.
It's on.
Oh, it's up. Oh, this I thought would be very interesting. So every year we look at these things. One of the things I like to look at is if I don't take those back to encumbrance figure, I want everybody to kind of see that. Probably nothing that I should. It's important to me. That encumbrance figure really is money that we didn't spend. We anticipate spending it, so we actually take that money and we bring it into the new year. That becomes part of this whole calculation down. The state's how it is. It's another part of the assigned fund balance. So we have 900,000 that we're going to offset our expenditures with, but there's also the amount that's the encumbrances. Now, I take those figures out because it's not money really, that's a reserve. That's really where we are. So I don't want anyone to think, oh my God, we're getting so low in our unassigned fund balance. And what happens if we have something that happens? We're in a nice, healthy place as far as our reserves and our fund balance goes. I just wanted to kind of show that figure if I take that encumbrance figure out of it. Just as a, put everybody's mind at ease, we're not poor, I'm grateful. We have enough money to pay our bills, to do what we need to do, and hopefully, if we do have a child or a family that comes here with a different set of needs, we can afford to do that. So you can go ahead and change the next slide. So why increase the reserves? Again, the current unassigned fund balance is greater than the allowable 4%. The current percentage is 5.89, which is slightly lower than 630. Last year was 5.97. And where do we want to be and how do we get there? Again, we continue to monitor our spending and our revenues. And if our revenues are a little bit higher than we had anticipated, we didn't account for every sheet to be full in those inclusion classrooms, the tuition paying districts. So our revenue was a little greater than what we had anticipated. Spending was down a little bit. But one of the things we're going to do this year, which is going to be part of the reserve plan update, is we are looking at policies that we can do to manage our fund balance, where we can say to the state, look, we have a board-approved policy for our fund balance, and our Board of Education is comfortable somewhere between 4% and 6%. Obviously, I know that Courtney, you had a question about that. Is that legal? But we have a new attorney now, so I'm going to run that through all of them first to help us with those policies. Because if we can have a policy that we create, the board creates, that allows us, we understand and justify why we don't necessarily want to be at 4%. So those are some of the things we're going to do this year. And again, what is the reserve plan? A lot of schools don't do it annually. We do. I think it's important. I don't know why. I just think it is important. It provides the detailed information on each reserve. I'll give you what year it was established, what activity we had in this past year, and what do we anticipate in the next year. When they were obviously all that I just said, and then we'll get that in the fall. I'll go back. I think I gave it to you in November, December, right around the budget season. That's when they'll get it. We'll update everything. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions or can I offer any more information? Great, thank you.
Okay, item 4, business matters, non-action items. A, warrants. Closed country information from the board are copies of the following warrants and claims audit report for June 2025. Does anybody have any questions on those warrants?
A71, just correct the total there. I think the report said 629.
Yeah, 626.16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
checked your report.
626. I thought it said 629. Anyway, that's okay. Yeah.
These are the
Everything
report
else-
attached.
So yes, on the warrant itself, this is 29.
Yeah.
Right.
This is $3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the claims audit report, it is 626. It should be 629. You're right. I was.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, any other questions? All right, item B, CS Arch B 132 and C 132 schedule. I don't know if you want to speak, you don't need to.
I'm happy to.
All right.
So Mr. Wolf reached out. He is, he's our direct contact at CS Arch. We had some lengthy conversation as we prepared to enter our next capital project, whether we were going to use CS Arch for construction management or we would seek an independent firm for our construction management. The board was pretty unanimous through our conversations that CS Arch would be the person that would hold our construction management. They haven't held our construction management since 2016. We didn't have them for our last smaller project. So CS Arch and Frank Barilli from Gercio and Gercio are finalizing the construction documents and the contracts and the both architecture and engineering and construction management. Gercio and Gercio is finishing that for us because they started it prior to our transition to Honeywell. I had a conversation with the attorneys at Honeywell, and they had recommended and supported Gercio and Gercio finishing that because they had already started the work. Honeywell would have been starting from the ground up. So they are still in the process of working through that. However, through my conversations with CSR, we want to continue to get information in front of the board as they work through those. It's at this point in time, it's a lot of language that they're working through. It's a lot of, you know, very detailed language work that they're going back and forth at this time. This piece of it, I wanted to put in front of the board and give them a sense around cost, because this is part of what is in the budget. So really, Exhibit A for you is the breakdown that we've looked at on many occasions, the different areas, the estimated costs, when we look at things from like the locker rooms all the way down to the additions. When you look at page B, that is, or Exhibit B, that is the breakdown of costs that is not going to result in work here at the building. So the first one is going to be, I'm sorry, there's your post-rep fee calculation, but then you have your architecture and engineering there for you. That is your fee schedule. And then the next piece is your construction management. And then there's, you know, there's dollars and cents or dollars on the left column, and then the percentages are on the right. Those percentages were in our contract that we had previously looked at, but now we're looking at the dollar and the amount. So we're looking at architecture and engineering. It's a little under $1 million in fees. And then the construction management is right around 285.
It's 457, you said $1 million, but that's $1 million is the incidentals, right?
I
Okay,
a little under that.
457, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's broken down as well.
Okay, were there any questions about this? Again, we're not approving this tonight. This will be part of the contract that comes out, we'll see in a week or two, but, are there any questions about the fee schedules?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You should expect to see those contracts come before the board, I believe, at the August 25th meeting. But I just wanted to have a sense of the dollars that we had committed to by going with them for both services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion items. Item C, business office appropriation status report for June 2025. Are there any questions on that? I have item D, non-action items revenue status report. Any questions on that? All right, that takes us to 5 business matters action items. Item A, tax rate for 2025, 2026. Could I get a resolution, please? I don't know that.
Whereas the Board of Education, Manans Union Free School District has been authorized by the voters at the annual school district meeting to raise for the budget of the 25-26 school year a sum not to exceed $12,976,198. Therefore, be resolved, the Board of Education fix the equalized tax rates as they appear below.
Second.
I'll just note for the board and the public that the rate is different than what was in our presentations, what we had approved, because when we pass our budget, we don't know what the assessments are. If the assessments are higher than expected, the tax rate goes down. If they're lower than expected, the tax rate goes up. In this case, the assessments were higher than expected, and our actual tax rate, our effective tax rate for the school district was 2.53%, which was lower than we had anticipated when we put the budget out to vote. Are there any questions about that? Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tax rate is approved. Item B, contracts for approval. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District hereby approves the following contracts for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Any questions about anything on this list? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C, action items disposals. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District accept the disposals as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, treasurer's report. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District approve the treasurer's report for June 2025.
Second.
Any questions about this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, budget transfers over $10,000. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the authorization of the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District approve the enclosed budget transfers over $10,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item 6, Board of Education action items. Item A, pre-K program plan approval. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District adopt the 25-26 pre-kindergarten program plan as attached.
Second.
Any questions on that?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, bond resolution. Could I get a resolution, please?
Bond resolution dated August 11, 2025, the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $6,425,000 aggregate principal amount of the serial general obligation bonds, the expenditure of $300,000 from the capital reserve fund to finance the construction of an addition to and construction, renovation, improvement of the school district building, facilities, and site, acquisition of original furnishings, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required for the purpose for which such building, facilities, and site are to be used, and payment of costs incidental thereto at an estimated maximum cost of $6,725,000. The expenditure of such sums for such purpose, levy a tax in annual installments and payment thereof, and determining other matters in connection therewith.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, district-wide safety plan approval. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District adopt the 2025-2026 district-wide safety plan as attached.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, other appointments. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Menands Union Free School District hereby approves the following individuals to carry out the appointments as outlined below for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to point out that we have a representative from Honeywell here tonight. We want to thank him for joining us. We want to give an introduction to the group.
Absolutely. So we have Paul Lloyd. He is one of the attorneys at Honeywell Law Firm. He has joined us this evening and came out to meet the Board of Education. We went through a pretty comprehensive pretty comprehensive process as we assessed our counsel, and then went forward and wound up selecting Honeywell as our attorneys moving forward. I am excited to work with them. They came highly recommended from my colleagues. And I do believe that the board will be in good hands with Honeywell as their point of contact for legal matters in the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't, do we want to let him go home or?
He's grading us.
Okay, personnel matters, item A, letter of resignation. Could I get a resolution, please?
Yep. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District accept the letter of resignation for Christina Rowland, effective close of business August 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to thank Christina and Mrs. Rowland for her service to the district. She has spent the last 3 years with our school. She has a tremendous instructional knowledge that our students were able to benefit from. While we are sorry to see her go, she has accepted a position in her home district and will be able to specialize in 2 subjects that she loves deeply, math and science. So we certainly wish her the best, and I hope that she remains connected to some of her colleagues here at the dance school.
Thank you, Christina, and good luck in your new position. Item B, letter of resignation. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District accepts the letter of resignation for Lauren Hayes, effective close of business July 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So the resignation of Ms. Hayes is a little bit hard, just that she has been with our district. She would have been going into her 10th year with us. I had the unique opportunity to serve with Mrs. Hayes as a colleague, an instructional coach, a mentor, a principal, and now superintendent. She has done tremendous work within our music program, and we are grateful for the time and the energy that she has dedicated to our students and families. She had the opportunity to work closer to home. She has young children. The drive, the commute, and competing responsibilities ultimately led her to take a position a little bit closer to home, gives her some more time at home, and really be able to shift where she's spending some of her time. So again, I would expect that she will probably remain, committed and connected to our community, but I certainly wish her well. And the Boston Spa School District has really lucked out as their next music teacher at Bethel.
I'd like to echo that. Her first year was my daughter's first year. She's kind of our special teachers touched all the kids, right? All the kids know her, all the kids love her. It's gonna be hard to lose her. I hope she comes back to visit. I know I told my own children, and they were very, very upset about it. But we do wish her well, and hope she comes back to see us. Takes us to item C, letter of resignation for the purpose of reassignment. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District accepts the letter of resignation for Shauna Stack, effective close of business August 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
I was just looking at this. Her name appears on both the,
It's supposed to be on their tricycle.
oh, it's supposed to be on.
Yep, so 0.5 for both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mrs. Morano.
So Shauna Stack has been a longstanding employee. I think she's been with us 4 or 5 years now. She served as building sub. She's done some long-term leaves for us, and then ultimately has been a teaching assistant, primarily serving in our middle school. Over the course of last year, we had a pretty big spike in enrollment for students with English as a new language needs. I think we saw 18 new students enroll with us last school year. So Ms. Stack is a certified elementary teacher with a master's in literacy, and she has expressed some interest in the area of ENL. There are certain certification rules right now that she can take the TESOL exam, pass it. With my recommendation and her coursework that she currently has in place, she can be supplementally certified for 5 years.
Okay.
So she is working through the process to be supplementally certified. That opportunity closes August 31st, 2025. So she has her application in, we're working through that. She will be a part-time ENL teacher for us, and then she will also serve in our middle school as a part-time instructional aide.
Okay.
So we will keep her full-time. And, my hope is this opens an opportunity for her. She does a great job in small group instruction. I will tell you there is a great demand for ENL teachers. So hopefully she will find a professional pathway that she can work in small groups. And this gives her a chance to serve our students who she knows and she loves, and try, a new career path with the protections of also remaining full-time here. So it's a win for the district. We get to find a half-time E&L teacher, which, I mean, full-time E&L teachers are hard to come by. And she gets the opportunity to explore, a new possibility.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, so when you look at the next item, personnel agenda, she's on there as instructional staff 0.5, non-instructional staff 0.58.
Yes.
Can we just redo the vote for item C? We have the resolution in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, personnel agenda. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District approves the personnel agenda items as listed.
Second.
Are there any questions about this?
Hmm.
You can see the 2 appointments listed, also some other appointments. Let's do the vote first and then, yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So, a couple of new appointments. It is August, and I will say each person that we are appointing is currently, on vacation, so they can't be with us here tonight. Our new teachers do try to attend our, board meeting where they are appointed. Brianna Hoffman will come on as our new 4th grade teacher to replace Mrs. Rowland. She is a graduate of Manans School in 1999, and she will come back as our 4th grade teacher. She has spent the last 19 years at the Mohammedan School District. Shauna Saftey spoke to Sabrina Meza. She is going to be our speech and language pathologist while Miss Parsons welcomes her new child into the world and takes a couple of weeks to be home. You will see her maternity leave request at our next meeting. She had to work out some details. Dave Clarkson, he is our building sub. He is returning this year. That is an annual appointment. And then Connie Marie Rao. She is going to be our new music teacher. We worked to interview her last week. We worked on references. She came and taught a lesson. I spoke with her today. I offered her the position and she accepted. She is relocating here from Westchester County. She is a longstanding music teacher with 16 years of experience, both general music, band, and chorus. So she will be well positioned to do all of those pieces and parts here. She is excited to come and join us at Manans School. She is a ball of energy, and I do think that she will be a nice addition to our district, and I'm grateful that she comes with a level of experience on top of it. We have a very unique position where, band, choral, and general music is all delivered by a single person. So we welcome Connie as she will join us, and she'll join us on September 2nd.
Great, thank you, and congratulations to all the new hires and returning hires. Welcome you to our community, to our district, and look forward to seeing you in the fall. Item E, mentors. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District approves the following mentors for the 2025-2026 school year per the MAT contract as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item 8, superintendent program recommendations, CSC, CPSC recommendations. Could I get a resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Manans Union Free School District hereby approves the CSE CPSC recommendations as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, student matters enrollment update. Looks like we are at 279, but I know we're getting more.
That's everybody who's officially entered in this.
Right.
There's more.
I imagine in the last few weeks, we're going to be getting lots of calls. I know I got a new neighbor across the street just today. Maybe Friday, I don't know, recently.
So our pre-K is all filled up.
Pre-K is filled up. We're actually moving on to our first waitlist person. But we have 2 more people, 1 person absolutely on waitlist, 1 person that's halfway through registration. I think I have about 10 registration appointments this week. So there's a lot going on.
I'll keep an eye on that number as we move into the school year. Item 10, administrative updates, superintendent's comments.
So, one last reminder for NISBA, if you would like to attend NISBA, and attend that, it's a about a 2.5 day conference. It will be held in New York City this year. I encourage board members to please take a look at the website. You can see some of the offerings, the theme is really around dignity and respect and how that is woven through the board member process and the responsibilities and interactions with the community. But please take a look. If you would like to attend, please reach out to Trish sooner than later. I will say as you get closer to the dates, the hotel rooms get further from the host site. So, I encourage you, this is one of the formal opportunities that we offer the board to engage in professional learning. And then you get to meet board members across the state, which is also, a great perspective. We live in a little bit of a bubble here, right in the Capital District. So it is always good to just hear what's going on in different parts of the state and what are the priorities in Long Island versus Western New York versus the Capital District. And they really do. They have some good sessions. There's a lot to pick from. So please let Trish know if you are interested in attending. Summer learning is in its final week here for our existing students. Is in our final week here at Manans. So we have had 3 programs going on. We've had extended school year for our students with exceptional needs. They've spent 6 weeks with our teachers, engaging in a variety of units. And really it's about keeping skills fresh. Then we also have a group of students here under Tiger Learning Lab that are working on math and literacy skills. And then finally, we have a group of students working with our ENL teachers to keep their literacy and their language skills fresh. Those students have been here for a period of 4 weeks. They've been doing a ton of great work and having fun, right? We try to not make school 2.0, but also ensure that we keep their skills sharp. So those programs have remained filled. We are grateful to the teachers who have provided their expertise over the course of this summer. And the halls are going to get really quiet next week for a little bit, because next week we welcome our kindergarten warm-up week. So we will have our kindergartners come in for 2 hours a day, meet with their new teachers. They get to ride the bus all by themselves without any other students, only kindergartners on it. Miss O'Connell does us the great favor of riding the bus home the first day, because she is a Manans native, and we get all of the kids home to the right bus stops because they don't quite know their addresses and all of that stuff yet. And so we will have them here next week for 2 hours a day. It is probably one of the best programs that we offer. The kids come in, they're here by themselves, they're on the playground by themselves, they're on the bus by themselves. When we come to the first day of school, we don't have any tears from children. I can't promise you that moms are, and dads are still a little sad, but overall, it really sets them up for a really successful day. And then we'll end that week with our meet and greet. We have had our water testing and asbestos inspections. We got our inspection report back. Everything remains the same. There has been no disturbances, no changes in that area. That report is posted to our website. We do that every 3 years. It's the AHERA report. And then the second piece is water testing. If you remember, in June, I had notified the public and the board that one of our water bottle fill stations came back with a high lead count. And we immediately took it out of service, but we had it retested because the fountain part was fine. It was just the bottle fill station, and it all comes from the same piping. So we had that independently retested. In the retest, the bottle fill station came back fine. I'm not sure why it tested high the first time. However, it is on our regular schedule for maintenance and filter repair. But again, I would just remind you, it's independently tested. It's not testing that happens here. It happens through an independent lab, but it did come back okay through the second round of testing. That bottle fill station has gone back in service and will be back in service. And I think the students will be happy. Of course, it's the bottle fill station right outside of the gym. So we had some thirsty kids coming out too. I mean, they walked down the hallway, they were fine, but that water fountain is back up and running, and those updated lab results have also been posted to the website, and notifications gone out to campus. And then last but not least, just a reminder, August is the month that we have 2 board meetings. We will be back here on August 25th. I would presume with a light agenda, but we do have that agenda. We will have some final non-instructional appointments, probably for aides. We have a couple of business office items that we will tackle at that agenda. But it should be a brief meeting, but we will hold that August 25th meeting. And at that meeting, we will be asking the board, we will be asking to hold a public hearing for the repair reserve. As Ms. Moran had alluded to, the AC unit that's over district office, which is over 20 years old, is hanging on by a thread. They came out, they kind of got it back up and running. It's running on an independent thermostat, but it should get us through the fall, but we will need to plan to replace that AC unit, that's over district office, and it's looking at about $24,000, but we will do a full public hearing, and look to move ahead to replace that unit. Now, keep in mind, this is exactly what the repair reserve is for. It's for unexpected repairs that need to happen. Can't plan for this one, so this is exactly why we would keep that reserve funded. But you will hear more at our next board meeting in that area. Would you add anything to that, Ms. Moran?
You nailed
All right.
Is NISBA registration open? I forgot what the date was that they're.
Yeah, open tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, takes us to item B, business manager's comments.
Yep, I have just a couple of comments. We talked earlier today about the general audit update. The audit went great. I was very happy about that. We won't have to do two corrective action plans, which I'm really happy about. Facilities wise, I think if you noticed, we did some of the repair work outside with the concrete where it was a trip hazard. We focused on the deepest, you know how the concrete, the sidewalks have settled. We have to be careful of that because of trip hazards and we don't want anyone involved. So we chose to correct the areas that were the worst right now. And if this next school year allows us a little extra money as we get into the spring, we'll get the other area, which is the middle area where the sidewalk is, where you park your car. The guys have really done a lot of work and they're all new. So I think Phil's not new. So Phil's, you know, they feel always, it's amazing how much work they get done, but they're in the middle of painting, waxing, stripping, all that other stuff. We've made some painters out of some non-painters, and it's just been an interesting summer. We will be ready to open. The building will look as good as it always does. And the other thing that you will be approving on the 25th, this evening you approve the tax rate. Now I will send that information to the town of Colony tomorrow. And they will give us the information and you'll be filling out the tax warrant on the 25th, an important part of your job. And we'll have that information as well. But again, it's another summer. It's amazing how much work gets done. It blows my mind, but we're doing well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 11, miscellaneous. This is a chance for board members to ask questions, make comments about anything school related or community related, or ask for, anything you would like to see on a future agenda. Does anyone have anything?
So the school bus contracts are all done or they are still in progress
The contracts, did you say?
for the school buses?
So we have, don't panic. We're in a good place. We have the 1-year rollover contracts. We have worked with Durham. We have worked with Star and Strand. Star and Strand has been approving them. We're going through the paperwork process to submit them to the commissioner. So the CPI came out less than a month ago. So there's, Joanne was working through a lot of the calculations today. You have to be clear about number of runs, number of buses, and there's a lot of supporting documentation. So we're right on track to submit to the commissioner and get approval for that, but I do not anticipate any problems with that. Would you add anything to?
The only thing I would add, I was telling Ms. Jackson-Kula earlier, the state has changed they went completely paperless, and it's an 83-page document for me to figure out how to do that. I'm killing it. So I'm working on that. Courtney's going to be available next week to sign the final documents. I had the company sign the wrong ones because I thought we were still doing paper. So I have to go back out to the contractors, get everything re-signed. We're on track. We'll get it all submitted.
Anything else? Any other questions? I was going to say the village community night is next Wednesday, the 20th. That's when they have over at the park, the village does an event for kids, usually with some bounce houses and some music and police department and some general community events. If anyone wants to attend that. That's all. Item 12, public comment. Please note during public comment sessions, members of the community may address the board on agenda and non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything? Is there anyone online? Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Thank you.